Hi guys, I hope you all are enjoying the snow days. I am really loving all the snow pictures that you are sending, and it is freezing outside. There is no doubt about it. Okay, but stay warm and stay safe. So let's start with talking about lesson planning. So the very first thing I want you guys to do is go to this news section that you have, and there is a very short survey. So even before you start lesson planning, I need you guys to take this survey. You will just click on this link, a Google form will open up, and you are going to take this survey. It's a very short form, as you will see. So you have to take this survey. Once you take this survey, just submit it and you don't have to worry about it. This is for me to gather data so that I can see where I can help you when we actually have class. So let's go in depth about the lesson planning. So if you go to the content and we go to week 5, that is where all our stuff is. As you can see, lots of things over here for you guys to review. And then you have obviously the watch me first and the Jamboard was for in class. But here is your lesson plan and reflection template. Here is the rubric, and here is the rubric for the observation. And this is how the rubric is graded for the observation. So we are going to go through all of this stuff, but let's first go to the lesson plan. So here is your template of the lesson plan. On the very top where it says the teacher, you guys are going to write your name here and then your mentor teacher in parentheses, but you are the teacher. The grade level that you're going to teach, the date when you are going to teach, and the lesson plan topic. This is the overall topic like numbers in operation, measurement, money, all of those major, like the overall topic is what you're going to put here. The next part is your TEKS and your objectives. So let's look into those in detail. So when we are looking at the TEKS, this is, I've opened up the TEKS document. This is 3rd grade math TEK, and I'm going to go down. Let's see if I needed to talk about this TEK, the compose and decompose of numbers to 100,000. So I'm going to copy paste this TEK. And this is the same Jamboard that is there, the link on your D2L. So you guys can see that one. I have the Jamboard. I am going to paste the TEK here. So now when I am writing a TEK, this is not the way to write a TEK. The way to write the TEK is you only do what is required, like what is the TEK saying. So you're going to remove all of this stuff and just leave the student is expected to compose and decompose numbers. And here also what you are going to do is write it in correct format. To write it in correct format, you will always put the grade level. So this is your grade level dot 2 because this is the TEK number, A, which is your goal statement. So basically this needs to change as 3.2a. The student is expected to compose and decompose numbers. This is how you're going to write your TEK. You are going to make sure that you have your grade level, the TEK number, and the goal statement. Let me do one more that for this. Okay, so I'm going to go to the second page that is there, and let's choose a different teak for, let's say, this is still which grade level? This is still 3rd grade level. So I'm going to go down and choose this one, geometry, and I want to choose B. So I'm going to just first copy paste it. I am only going to use the one that is needed. So I'm going to put it here. Now you guys can't see this. You'll see it in a minute. I'm going to change this, edit this to 3.6B because I only want the B one. So if I only want, it always starts with the student is expected to, and then use attributes and recognize rhombuses. So this is how I am going to write my teaks, is use the proper format for the grade level, the teak number, and the goal statement. So let's suppose I have kindergarten. Trying to write here, guys. Kindergarten, I have the 3rd teak, and it is the C statement. So for kindergarten, the letter that is used is K.3C. If it was 1st grade, then it would be 1.3C. This is for your 1st grade. Okay. So I hope that clarifies how are you going to write your teaks. Let's go to the next thing. The next thing now is to write your objective. Your objective are going to be in the ABCD format. Let me pull the objectives from the uploads that you have, and I'll show you which one I'm pulling those also. So basically your objective has audience, behavior, condition, and degree, which means it is the ABCD format of writing the objective. ABCD format of writing the objective. This I pulled up from your week 5 where it says the ABCD format of writing the objectives, and I'm going to go back and show it to you guys so that you guys have that too. And here is the ABCD format. One of the ones that is extremely important to know is your Bloom's taxonomy. So I'm going to open up this page so that we have this page while we are actually working on it. You need your objectives to be higher order thinking. That means to be in this category. The application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. But they also should match the activities that you do. So let's look at the ABCD format. I know you guys have worked on this in classroom management, but let's review it really quickly. Your A is your audience, which will always be the students. That is what your audience is. Your behavior comes from your Bloom's taxonomy. So your Bloom's taxonomy is what gives you the behavior, which is over here. So I will say the students will analyze, the students will choose. Do not use the word demonstrate. Demonstrate is not a observable, measurable behavior. So be careful about this. Condition is under what circumstances are they doing it. You could say using manipulatives the students will choose or students will construct. Using manipulatives is your condition. Or you could say the students will solve math problems given is your condition. So it can be at the beginning of the objective, or it could be in the middle of the objective. That is not a problem. This is called the condition. So the degree is, to what degree is it? If you don't have a degree, you will still put 100%. Your degree doesn't always have to be a percentage. So let's look at it. If I go to page number 4 of the Jamboard, you're going to see some bad and better examples. These are the math objectives that is there in week 6 of yours. So if you look at this one, you do not use demonstrate at all. This is not observable or measurable. This one has the audience. This one has what they are going to be doing, but it has no condition, and it has no degree, and behavior is not measurable. We are going to try my handwriting here. Trying to write, guys, on this computer. So it is not measurable. So here, look at this one. This is your condition. Students is your audience. Will measure is your behavior. And then the nearest millimeter is your degree. So as you can see, it doesn't have to be a percentage, but nearest millimeter is your degree. The students will learn about objectives. That is a really bad objective, and here you can see what it is. So let's look over here once again. So what is my condition? After completing online objective, that is my condition. Where is my audience? Let me choose a green color for my audience. The student is my audience. Where is my behavior? Construct is where the Bloom's taxonomy is coming in 5 well. And what is my condition here? Scoring proficient or better on the soaring scale. So this is my condition. Okay, let's do one more example. This one you have is the students will solve addition problems with 80% accuracy. This has your audience. This has your Bloom taxonomy. It has the degree, but it does not have its condition. That is very important. So look here, you still have your degree here. I am going to look at my condition that is given to, this is your condition. Then you have your audience is the students, and then you have is your place the numbers in equation form. Try not to use 2 Bloom's taxonomy in the same objective. Not to use 2 Bloom's taxonomy or behavior. Okay, so this is all about your objectives. I'm going to go back to our template. So here is the template back again. We've talked about the TEKS. We've talked about the objectives. Now let's talk about the assessment strategies. So if you go back on your Jamboard and you go back to page number 5, you are going to see that there is this table over here. So what is your learning objectives? Your learning objectives are basically the objectives you wrote on the top. So you're going to just copy paste the objectives here. The assessment is going to decide whether you have a pre-assessment, a formative assessment, or a post-assessment. You can have all of them to be formative. That is not a problem. you can have, but you cannot have all of them to be pre. You can have 2 formative, 1 summative, that is all right. It is fine. So here is a question that's asked. How many objectives do we need? How many assessment do we need? You need 1 objective is okay if you are assessing it 3 different ways. Or you can have 2 objectives and you can assess 1 in 2 different ways. For your lesson plan rubric, let me go back to the rubric and I will show you guys. This is the West College of Education rubric, and so this is the one that you also saw in your classroom management class. In this case, as you can see, the assessment strategies align to lesson objective and assess student learning from more than 2 perspectives. That means you have to have at least 3 assessments. Now, all the 3 assessments don't have to be data collection. You can have 2 of them to be data collection, which is fine. But you have to have more than 2 perspectives. And also, another very important thing to remember is the fact that one of them has to be a technology assessment. You have to have formative and summative assessment that are aligned with technology standards and provide data to inform student learning. So you have to have in your lesson plan somewhere that this data will be used to reteach, or this data will be used during the, like if you do a pre-assessment of technology, will be used to guide instruction, or if you're doing a technology assessment at the end, you can use Edpuzzle, Plickers, quizzes, all of those stuff that you have. You can use QR codes, you can have a Flipgrid video, all of that stuff. You have to have more than 2 perspectives, and one of them has to be a technology one. Okay, so let's look over here back again. So you decide whether it has to be pre-formative, post, or whatever. And then there has to be at least 3 assessment. And 1 has to be technology. Doesn't have to be all 3 collecting the data. Okay. So the format is, you decide what is the format, whether it is a test, a project, a journal entry, or an observational checklist, whatever it is, a quiz, whatever you want it to be. It is completely on you. Rationale for the assessment. Your rationale for the assessment is, why are you using that assessment? Using that assessment. So basically what it means is, just can't make my tea there. Got it. Why are you using that assessment? That is because I am using a test as a summative assessment to check what the students have learned from the lesson. Or I'm using a project to see students' understanding of the concept and their creativity. So basically your rationale is connected to your learning objective. What are you saying in your learning objective? So remember, at least 3 assessments. You can have 1 observation, but you need to have at least 2 collecting data that will help you inform student learning, and one of them has to be technology. So let us go back to the template. So we have talked about the TEKS, the objectives, the assessment strategies, and now we are on the instructional materials resources. So the way to do this one is, I'm going to go back to the Jamboard and I am going to go to page number 6. So when you look over here, the way to do this is going to be very easy. You are going to put, let me make my handwriting better. instructional materials, or you can put materials. You'll bullet your materials with quantity if there are any. You are going to put technology, and you're going to bullet it out. And then you are also going to put resources and bullet those out. For your resources, you have to include research. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the rubric and look over here. When you look at the rubric, it says strategies are based on practical experience, theory, research, and documented best practices with supporting evidence. The score between a 9 and a 7 is having that supporting evidence. So how do you get the resources? One of the best way to get the resources is for you to include your math book. Include the math book. Write it full. I just don't say math book. You need to write the full citation for the book. Okay? Get it from the syllabus if you have to get it from the syllabus. Include the math book. Now you may read an article that you really like. You may have other resources. If you're using Teachers Pay Teachers, put that down. That is perfect. That is not bad. However, Teachers Pay Teachers is not research based. So that is why you need to include your math book when you are doing your resources. So don't forget about that. Okay, let's go back again. So here is a template. Once more, we just talked about TEKS. We talked about objective. You are the teacher, grade level, and all of those things. We talked about the assessment strategies, and we talked about how to do this. Okay, so look here, there is a point that says include copies of any active worksheet, quizzes, handouts. So if you do an observation checklist, you're going to include a copy of it. If you do a worksheet, you're going to have a handout. Okay, if you do quizzes, you're going to write down the quiz questions for me. If you're doing a Kahoot, you can make the Kahoot later, but you're going to put the questions there because we need to see whether your assessment strategies are aligned to your assessment is aligned to the objectives or not. So here is where it says, is it aligned to the lesson objectives? And that is important even now or later. You have to have all your assessments should be assessing what your objective says. That's what it is. Okay, so we've talked about this. So now we come to the main part of the lesson. So your main part of the lesson plan is your instructional delivery, which is all these questions before, during, after, and in the enrichment. So I'm going to go back to our Jamboard, and I am going to go to page number 7. So when you look at page number 7, you are not answering these questions. Okay, let me be very, very clear. You are not answering the questions. That is not the lesson plan. You're going to put your instructional delivery. You're going to put your time. What's your total time? And then you will start with before. Put whatever is in before, during, and after. Before is getting them ready for the lesson. So this is them getting them ready. Your during is your main activity that you're going to be doing. So you also have to differentiate. Okay? And your after is your closure. after is your closure. So let's talk about differentiate, and let's talk about this in a little bit more detail. So when you go to page number 8, we are going to talk about differentiating. You are going to differentiate for early finishers, struggling students, and then whatever modifications are there in your class. Okay, so you have to do for early finishers and struggling students. If you go back to the lesson plan rubric, you are going to see, here are the things. You are differentiating for early finishers, struggling students, and any modifications in your class. So when you go back to the lesson plan, you're going to see rubric. It is not limited to students identified with specific learning impairment. Students with difficulties are provided different instruction regardless of the reason. So this is where it comes in. You have to differentiate for struggling learners, and it has to be aligned to the activities. So you cannot tell a student struggling will be doing, like suppose, let's say, if your student is doing on place values, okay, you can give the students that are struggling with just place values of the hundreds, but all the others have thousands. So that is aligned. You cannot give them a coloring worksheet with counting, which is not aligned to the activities that you are doing. So it needs to be aligned to the activities. So your differentiating would be early finishers, struggling students, modifications in your classrooms, any others like 500 modifications, ELL, you could have learning disabilities, physical disabilities. So this is where the differentiating would come in. So this is your differentiation. That you have for all of those threes. Now, where are you going to put the differentiation? Your differentiation is going to come under the during aspect, because you are differentiating for the main activity that you are doing. Okay, and your after is about your closure. So closure is basically how you're ending it. You could decide to do an exit ticket here. You could decide to do a plickers or exit with a quiz or something else, or you decide to ask questions and then the students respond to it. Okay, so this is all about your lesson plan. I'm going to talk about reflection in just a minute, but I want to first talk about the main points of your lesson plan. Okay, so even though you're not answering these questions, these are questions that are going to be addressed in the lesson plan itself, right? So I'm going to go to page number 9 and we are going to write down some important things that is going to be there, okay? For your lesson plan, your questions, you should have a minimum of 6 higher order thinking questions, and they have to be in bold. Okay, so you have to have a minimum of 6 higher order thinking questions. That's what you need to have. Next thing about your lesson plan is you are going to talk about your instructional strategies. So, is it independent work? Is it guided practice? Is it group work? So when you're talking about group work, you are going to talk about grouping. How are the students grouped? Are you going to do pre-made groups? You don't have to give me rationale for pre-made groups, but is it going to be pre-made groups? Is it going to be randomly selected group or table groups? Or how are you going to group all of those? Those are very important to decide, Remember, you have to have at least 3 assessments, okay, and you have to have at least one of them to be technology, so don't forget about the assessments aspect of it, okay. And then another part that you have to remember is your lesson needs to be student-centered. So don't keep on saying, I will do this, I will do this. If you keep on writing, I will, then that is not student-centered, okay? That is not student-centered. You need to write about from the student's perspective of it. It is students will be able to do this, students will be able to do that. Okay, so that is very important for you to work on as you are going forward. All right, so now we are going to talk about your reflection. So this takes care of the whole lesson plan that you have. This is your lesson plan, and this is going to be your reflection. Your reflection has to be submitted on the same day of teaching. Okay, there will be a drop box. The drop box time would be noted. If your reflection is late, you lose 25% of the points. Okay, so your reflection is submitted on the same day of teaching, and these are the 3 questions you answer. Okay, I'm going to go back to my Jamboard, and I am on page number 10. So it is submitted. When is it submitted? Same day of teaching. That is when the Jamboard is submitted. You answer these 3 questions. You have to include professional development. What do you mean by professional development? It means attending workshop or doing seminars and things like that, because you are not only making short goals, but you're also making long range goals about the things that you want to change. So you have to write about 3 things that impacted. When I say 3 things, I mean 3 teacher behavior that impacted student learning. You have to write about at least 3 things. Like for example, I could say as a teacher, I realized that my questioning strategies were not higher order because the students were only giving one answer question. So the next time I would change those questioning strategies. You can write about any aspect. You can write about a problem. You can write about your worksheet. You can write about classroom management. You can write about grouping. You can write about anything. But you're going to write about at least 3 minimum things. In this one, you are talking about the effectiveness, how effective was your lesson, and prompts are given to you over here. This one you're talking about collaboration, and you are going to give specific examples here. Don't make a general statement, okay? How long it has to be, I'm not looking for 5 pages, okay? A page to 2 pages, page and a half, those are all okay. You should have everything in it, okay? That's what the point is. I've written a question here in black which says, what would you do to improve? That is what you need to focus on your future planning. So if you look at the rubric, you will see that it talks about how teaching behavior contribute to student learning, how teaching behavior, like that's a repeat, what would be done differently to improve, and how professional development contribute to it. Your reflection counts for the lesson plan and it counts for the observation also. So it counts for both those things and you have to be careful about it. I'm going to show you for where does it count for your observation. So when you go down to your observation form, and you're going to go down over here, if you look at it in the fourth domain, it says reflects on practice. So it really counts towards your practice also. Okay, so those are very important things for you guys to remember as you are working through the lesson plan. This actually finishes up the whole lesson planning. I am going to post 1 or 2 more videos about due dates and how is the observation graded and all of those things, so that you can have all that with you. If you have any questions, once again, please don't hesitate to ask. I am here to help you guys be successful, but you need to watch this video. You need to actually work towards it. This is a lot of points, 100 points for your lesson plan and 80 points for the observation. So watch the video, ask me if you have any questions, always here, okay? Best of luck, and I look forward to meeting for our pre-conferences, which I am going to post about in just a minute too.